Thanks, Con. Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be able to present today, and thank you for joining. As Con mentioned, I'm with Cyberscience Corporation, and Cyberscience provides BI software for companies in all industries. Today, we're going to focus on explaining to you about our product, Cyberquery, and the AI assistant. That's the kind of the focal point of this presentation. We'll talk a little bit about how traditional AI is not the same as what's found in manufacturing reality. Go into a little more detail about that. I've actually dedicated a fair amount of time to live demonstration to show you how the product works, and then we'll discuss the next steps. So let's start off with a little company background. Cyberscience has been around quite a long time. We were founded in 1977 with the first software release in 81. We're a privately held UK corporation. We're headquartered in the UK. I actually work in the US. We run North American sales and support operations out of Denver, Colorado. But the important thing is our founder and CEO is still founder and CEO. We haven't changed hands. We've been individually owned all this time. The company focuses on BI, as I mentioned earlier. Our product is called Cyberquery. Its purpose is to allow you or anyone in your organization to be able to write queries and reports against an underlying database and generate meaningful content. It's a very intuitive product. It'll take you through the process of doing that. And our 40-year plus history has all that development has evolved into a very powerful solution. Adding AI on top of an existing product is a wonderful architecture because we're not starting from the ground up. We already had the foundation well in place to get to this point. As an organization, we are offering our product in all industries, but we have a very strong investment in the ERP area, especially manufacturing. We've had customers and partnerships since the early 80s running Cyberquery. They ran on what are now called legacy applications back then, and many of them have stuck with us as they've upgraded to newer generation ERPs. The important thing in telling you this is that our entire staff has a very deep knowledge. In working with ERPs, we have a lot of experience with many ERPs. If you have legacy data running for historical purposes with an application that's 20 years old, chances are we've seen it and could work with it if you wanted to also access that in addition to visual. Cyberquery as a product focuses on, as I mentioned earlier, connecting to databases, allowing you to get the information you need. And for many people, that's just a simple ad hoc query. I want to find out a little bit about my customers and maybe list out their balances and throw that into an Excel spreadsheet. For a lot of people, that's the day-to-day activity. But because of Cyberquery's longevity and the depth of its product, we can do much more robust reporting. We can do production reports that run every night and deliver meaningful content. We can generate analytical analysis, drill downs, etc. So it's capable of doing the very deep necessary things that you'll want from reporting, but it's also quite intuitive for new users. It follows a simple flow of building a query. We also offer viewpoints, which are role specific. So certain areas of visual that you want to focus on, rather than looking at the entirety of the database, the viewpoints will allow you to stay focused in a narrow area, either for simplicity, simplifying the data, or it could be as a security need. We don't want you looking at financial information if your job title is one that doesn't require you to know financial information. Cyberquery works with simplifying the database's structure. And the important thing, and I think one area we're very different from many of the other third-party products we look at, is we directly access your visual database. We don't require you to export your data into some other form to make our product work. We're actually going to prefer to read the live database so that you're getting real-time access. And I mentioned spreadsheets a minute ago, but interoperability with spreadsheets like Excel is a big deal in all industries. And when I say interoperability, I mean the ability to not only generate spreadsheets, but to actually run live queries within your spreadsheet and populate a tab or a page with the data directly from Visual. In addition to people who write queries and develop queries, there's going to be a larger audience that just wants the benefit of those creations. And that's the whole team, right? So for them, we offer automated execution of reports that were created by the developers. And we also deliver them via email or whatever methodology they would like to receive them. Typically, we're generating things that are shareable, such as XLSX, PDF, HTML, XML, you name it. So with a lot of those formats, it's very easy to access not only from your desktop, but also from any mobile devices. And we lock down the product based on your user account or group. And we also can lock down, as I mentioned earlier, with the viewpoints based on role. Very important in an organization to have some level of governance around who can see what. And lastly, we offer the capability to create visualizations, whether that's a single chart, multiple charts on a dashboard, or some other metrics as well combined in a scorecard. Today's focal point is Cyberquery's AI implementation. We call this the AI Assistant. The AI Assistant sits on top of that Cyberquery engine that I just described to you. And it allows you to ask your questions in plain English, like you would ask an expert or an assistant who's sitting right next to you in your office. You can have the AI answer questions about the data model or the database, or you can actually ask it just to build you a query that's ready to run at that point. The important thing about this is you will not have to learn coding. There is no coding required. You don't really have to have reporting expertise. It's a very powerful product, and it helps new users get going or people who are infrequent users. And by infrequent, I mean the people who use it at once a month or once every couple months, and they never really build that strong domain expertise, but they kind of know that the product will get them where they want to go and they need some help getting there. So what the AI assistant does is it gets trained on the Cyberquery reporting language, which is the foundation of our product, and it gets trained on the visual database structure, which is stored in our data dictionary. And what that means is we're teaching it about these two pieces, and it's going to write the queries for you with that knowledge. We also take any existing reports that you have and set them up as starting points. And what that means is sometimes the AI says, well, I could write a GL trial balance for you, but looks like there's already one out here. You want to see if this does the job for you. And what that means is an existing starting point might get 90% of the way to where you want to be, and you can just go in and make a couple little changes to it, and you've got the report you want. As I mentioned earlier, the AI assistant is trained to write reports and answer questions, but it does not know anything about your data. Your data is external to the AI product. The Cyberquery assistant will take your input, write a query, and give you that query to run against your visual database. We're not going to ask you to upload your data into the cloud or do any other things that are going to make you uncomfortable. So I mentioned before about the comparisons between what traditional AI offers and what's reality in the manufacturing manufacturing world. And the very first thing is what I was just talking about, the cloud mandate. Most AI platforms today want you to load proprietary information in the cloud. Generic AIs, as we know them today, don't really understand visual or the logic behind the application. So this requires model training. In other words, you have to teach the AI model about visual, about the tables, what they mean, so forth. That's very time consuming. And the other thing that people encounter today is the unpredictability of it. The AI in the cloud is going to generate a response for you, but you're not really going to know what logic it used to get to that point. And sometimes the answers are not correct. And that's uncomfortable as well. Cyberquery answers that by training our model on visual. By having that reporting environment, which you can already access everything in the visual database, we already have a schematic layer in our product that we can use to train the AI. And not only that, we can also train the AI for your benefit to use any ancillary applications that you may be using, like CPQ, Salesforce, etc. We talk about instant access. Because this is already built and ready to go, it doesn't require us to do the retraining just for you. In other words, the AI that understands visual and understands Cyberquery is in our private cloud. But your environment that it's going to run its queries against is in your location. It's your local implementation, your on-premise implementation of visual. So when you load Cyberquery, you're loading it on a Windows server in your network, and it's accessing your live visual database locally. When you use the AI, we're going to ask the AI to write a query for us. It's going to do it, and then that query is going to run locally in your implementation, not in the cloud. And the 4 hours is about how long it takes for us to get it installed and up and running, because everything's already been trained and spec'd out. So we install software remotely, hook it to your visual database, do some tests, and we're pretty much ready to go at that point. We talk a lot about this data dictionary, but it really is the key to our execution. Since it's already fully filled out, it understands visual, it's going to eliminate all that time needed to define schema and to train a generic AI tool. It really is a quick implementation. We talked about peace of mind. The data does not leave your local infrastructure or your private cloud. It stays there. Anything that's proprietary remains under your control. And the users are secured by local security, not by some cloud-based security. So however you set up Cyberquery in your environment, whether you want to validate by user ID, whether you use Active Directory groups, whatever, if you want to lock down site, table, field level security within our product, you do so in that data dictionary, which again is local to your implementation of Cyberquery. Everything stays where you expect. So here's a quick picture of the architecture. Off to the left-hand side, we have the consumers. You say, who are the consumers? They can be executives. They could be information users, the people who develop queries for your organization, and they could be just operational users, the beneficiaries of the stuff that you create in that information user category. They're the downstream consumers of information, right? And on the right-hand side, we've got data sources. Starting with the most important is the Infor Visual Database and your ancillary systems, which can be connected, as well as data in the cloud. Again, the architecture is such that Cyberquery and its AI functioning is unique to you and not in the cloud. But many of the data sources you may want to access may be in the cloud. And so we work within the guidelines of those products to be able to use APIs, whatever they provide to us, to connect and get data out of their systems. So Cyberquery bridges, or the AI bridges the gap between the consumers and the data sources. And it does so using the Cyberquery server, as I mentioned a minute ago, is implemented locally on-prem. It involves having the Cyberquery engine itself. It involves having the data dictionary, which is fully defined to the visual database schema. And it comes with starting points. That is existing reports that will work for you out of the box to drive value on your implementation. Here at Cyberscience, we like this phrase, AI, but verify. And what that means basically is traditional AI offers some compelling features. It's easy to use, typically very fast in its response, and available whenever you need it. But with Cyberquery AI, we're going to add security on there as a value add, both internal and external. We're going to leverage our BI solution to access your database and not the AI itself. anything you create with the AI is fully repeatable. In other words, if you like what you've created, schedule it to run on a frequency, nightly, hourly, weekly, monthly, whatever you prefer, and publish it out to your reporting portal, whether it's our product or you're using another product to send your users to for content. We'll publish it in formats that they can quickly get to and understand. And finally, Cyberquery's AI solution is very cost effective. We offer our product on a monthly SaaS model. We offer it with a 30-day no-cost trial, so you can try it before you start down the SaaS path. And the pricing on the AI is currently under evaluation because we're in beta with many of our existing customers, finding out how heavily they're going to utilize it. We leverage Google's Gemini as our AI engine, and so we're kind of getting an idea of what the cost is going to be for the number of accesses they make in that environment. So the AI component to Cyberquery will be a module. You can start running Cyberquery without it, add it later if you want. Hopefully, by the end of this year, we'll have a real good idea of how that costing is going to work. We consider this to be a deliverable product in 2026. Most likely will be towards the back half of the year, since we're more than halfway there. And I'll be happy to talk any of the pricing information with you if you want to pursue it. So let's take this time to get into the demonstration. I'm going to switch. I'm going to get out of my PowerPoint and take you to the screen where I'm running Cyberquery. So before I show you how the AI works, I want to show you the foundational product so you can understand the architecture. I talked about it before. Cyberquery is a direct access product. It reads your visual database. It starts with a data dictionary that lists every single table that is available in visual. And if you have an idea where you want to start, you can just simply type it in here and take it there. So if I want to go to the part table, for instance, look at the parts database. If I just type in the word part, you can see it's taking me to that point. I'll say next. It's going to list for me in this column all of the rows that are in the part database or part table. I'm going to grab a couple of them here. Let's get stock unit of measure and product code. I'm double clicking, but I could drag over. This wizard will take me through the process of asking questions about sorting and selecting. But I just like to show that, I can pick those 4 items and it'll create the report for me that I asked for right there. Now, what Cyberquery does in the back end is it takes the query that I've just requested, converts it to SQL, sends it to your visual database, and returns the data and presents it on the page. The architecture that I'm running here is I have my laptop running this Cyberquery implementation, and I'm talking to a demonstration visual database, which is sitting in our UK office on one of the hosted servers there. So I'm actually running an international connection just to run this data, and yet you see how quick and responsive it is. And that's the experience we want you to have. We want you to be able to get quick turnaround on your requests from Cyberquery. What you see here is that I'm able to interact with this if I want. I can pick up this column, for instance, and move it over there. Could get rid of these empty product codes just by right-clicking and saying, I don't want product codes that are equal to null. I notice the ID field here. Oops, sorry, double-clicked. Right-click. ID field's a little wide, so I'm going to optimize the display width on that. It's going to look at all the data it's gathered and then resize it based on the largest field, which we can see is right here. Another thing I'll tell you about the Cyberquery Data Dictionary is it not only describes everything that's in visual, but it also has the joins between the tables. Joining tables is typically where non-technical users kind of hit the wall. They break down there because they don't know how to define to a system how to link tables together. But what Cyberquery does is it looks at where I started. As you can see over on the left here, I started with the part table. And then it's only showing me at this point all of the tables that have a relationship back to part. So I'm going to go over to the part location table. I want to grab a couple fields here. Let's get the warehouse ID, location ID, and the quantity. And I'll just drag that over and drop it off the end here. So this shows you a little bit about how the product deals with parent-child or one-to-many type relationships. For each of my parts, there's going to be multiple entries in the location table, and it's showing me that right here. Maybe it'd be easier if I put a little border around this, so I'll switch on the border tool and draw it. So now you can see there's the embossed lines to let you know when each of the parts change. You can do a number of things with this, but in the interest of time, I just want to show you how easy it is to go from an idea to a simple, valuable report. If I click on the view and spreadsheet, it'll go out and generate for me an XLSX file, which of course it's going to open on my other monitor, so bear with me. I'll just drag it over. So as I mentioned about the Excel interoperability, there's the report that I just created directly into Excel. This is not a cut and paste. We're actually generating XLSX files. So that means that when you schedule this to run and email to people, it's going to go to them as an XLSX file. And as you'd expect down here, any kind of totals or formulas, they're not just static numbers. So that shows you a little bit about the Excel interface. I'm going to start over. I can obviously, let me pause this for a minute. I want to show you the query language that I've generated. So my mouse clicks, dragging those fields around, created this particular query right here. This is the piece that drives Cyberquery. It's our heritage. 30, 40 years ago, when there wasn't Windows, there wasn't drag and drop, you didn't have a mouse, you just had a keyboard and you had a console on your screen. You would type these commands into the console and then tell it to run the query, and it would return the data. So we've retained that language-based heritage as we've added more and more functionality to the product. But the key is this is what the AI writes for you. It writes the query for you. So I like to point out that I've worked at Cyberscience for more than 30 years. I love this product. I use it every single day. I'm going to start a new query here. I use it every single day. I understand Cyberquery very well. I am brand new to Visual. I don't know Visual. I'm learning it each time I work with it. I find Cyberquery very intuitive, so I can grab a table here and start to look at the data and try to figure things out. But what I found is with the AI that I'm going to show you in a few minutes, it does it all for me. So it dramatically accelerates my ability to get to a finished product in an environment where I'm kind of a newbie. Like I said, I know Cyberquery, I know how to get around. I don't know Visual. So if you think that my reports don't make any sense, now you know why, because I'm a newbie as well. I want to show you a different kind of report. It's a little charting, and then we'll go into the AI. So in this case, I want to look for the payable table. There it is. And payable has, I'm asking for a summary report, which is going to allow me to do more of an analytical view of the data. So I'm going to summarize what's in the payable table. So I'm going to grab the total amount, and I want to group it by vendor ID. Oops, that's voucher. Let's take that off. I want vendor and hit finish. So what this does is it queries everything in the payables table, and it's going to group it by the individual vendor ID. Now, this is a test database. It's quite underwhelming in terms of its volume. But imagine in your world, there's a lot more vendor IDs than this. There's only about 12 here. So in this case, you probably don't want to know the vendor ID. You want to know the vendor's name. So I can just grab the name from the vendor table, drag it over, and then ID really is of no more value to me. I'll just take it off. So this is what I like about Cyberquery is I have an idea. I drag things over. I use my train of thought. I'm looking at the page. What's telling me. I might want to rank these. So I can click here, right click and say, give me a bullet chart, rank them and give me a bullet chart. So now I can see for my payables who my largest vendors are, right? And this is based on looking at the totals over the entire database. Like I said, the database is quite underwhelming. There's a couple years of history like 2010, 11, and 2013. That's it. So it's not a true working environment. This report would be a lot more meaningful in your live visual environment than it is here. But I like to show how easy it is to go from a simple text report to something more visual, Visualization is a focal point for a lot of organizations. I can also ask it to Cyberquery to create a chart for me. I can still use like the ranking component here, so I can rank by vendor name using the totals, and very quickly line chart, pie chart, all the things you'd want to see. But you can imagine that with Cyberquery, you can generate this visual content pretty quickly, maybe a couple charts, 3 or 4, save them, and then combine it together using our dashboard builder and create a finished dashboard product. So now I'm at the stopping point of showing you the foundational product. This is what we use to build our queries and generate content for our customers day in and day out, and have been doing this, like I said, for 40 years. Now I want to show you what's new. What's new, actually, pause that. I wanted to show you a couple examples of reports. Sorry, I got ahead of myself here. Not only does Cyberquery allow me to create reports dynamically, but I also can then save them and deploy them to my wider audience of users in the organization. So this is an example of an AR aging report that we created. As you can see, I set the date way back because the dates in my demo system are quite old. And I can also determine here what I want my AR aging buckets to be. So maybe I'd like 45 days in a bucket rather than 30. And when I run that report, it's going to use the existing logic to generate for me that aging report with the 45-day buckets. Again, it's tough for me to pick the right date because the dates are so old. But there's 2 levels of functionality I want to show you here for an end user. One is this little arrow is what we call a collapse or a compression of the data. So what I'm looking at here is an HTML report that actually has encapsulated data in there. And so as I'm a consumer of the report, but I didn't actually create it, it allows me to do, in effect, a drill down into the details that support the totals for able manufacturing. So I like this little feature here. You can add this into any of your summary reports, as well as you can also offer drill downs. So I can click on the actual customer account and then see the breakdown by individual invoice numbers. That's one level of example report. Another I've got here is a GL trial balance. Same thing, I had to set the dates way back, but this allows you to drive it to your specifications. This creates for me a very powerful report. It gives me the amounts over time, and you can see these dates are old. And then also I have drillable entities here. Pick an area and click on it, and we can drill down into the details, and I can actually drill down into the individual batches to see all of the transactions. So what are you looking at here? These are 3 Cyberquery reports. The first one gives me the trial balance and adds in a drill element. When I click on the drill element, it runs a second report, which then allows me to run a third report from the next level of drill capability. So this gives you an example of what can be created with core Cyberquery and then deployed out to the users. Okay, so now I'll get to the AI. I appreciate your patience on that. So let me move this bar because it's right in my way. Actually, I can just close some of these down. There we go. So this is the AI assistant. It's a natural language-based product. I'm going to ask questions of it, and it's going to generate content for me. It starts out kind of broadly speaking about what it can do. And it says you can enter a prompt, or I can tell you more about something. Well, let's take data dictionary because I talk about it a lot. So what it's going to do is go out and look at that visual data dictionary, and it's going to tell me that it's the schema that describes the database and suggest maybe some other things that I might want to take a look at. So I think I'll go with its first idea, or a second idea, which is show me all the fields in the customer file. Instead of typing it, I'm going to talk it. Show me all the fields in the customer file. Customer file is the customer table in Visual. Now I could have, with Cyberquery right then, when I was just working, I could have listed these out for you. But what I like about the AI's presentation is it kind of groups things for me. You know, it knows what fields are identifiers for the company, the ID and the name. It knows which fields are related to the actual address, and then things that relate to billing and shipping. Now, I would argue that anybody reading these field names could figure that out as well, but the AI does it for me so that I don't have to be there trying to get overwhelmed with what looks to be about 30 fields in the table, I can actually allow it to group things for me. And then go with my next question. So I'm kind of interested in discount codes. So I'm going to ask it, which customer has the highest discount code? It's interesting. Somehow I got the word skip. I must have hit the mic too fast. So now what it's done for me is written a query. That same language I showed you a minute ago, it's written one right here for me. And it's looking at the customer table. It's given it a title, customer with highest discount code. If I want to see what it's created, I click the run button and it runs it for me. So I did this the other day and I got a kick out of it because I don't know visual, right? So I'm like, well, what's wholesale? That's not what I meant. I didn't mean the text. I wanted the percentages. So I can ask it, why is wholesale the highest code? Oh, I wasn't fast enough. Let's see what I get. Why is wholesale the highest code? Trying it again. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. The reason wholesale is treated as the highest code is because it's a string data class. In other words, it's a character field. And the problem is that when I said highest, it did what effectively is a reverse sort. So it went with the highest value in the alphabet, which was W, but there's also other discount codes in there as well. So I got a little education from the AI on visual. What I realized was I asked for the wrong thing. I should have said, which customer has the highest discount percentage? And then it's going to go back and look at what I've requested and generate the query the way I wanted it. So when I let it complete and run here, there you go. Now I'm seeing discount percentage rather than warehouse code or the wholesale code. So this is interesting to me because it educates me on visual. I want to show you that each time this runs, you see different tasks happening, and these are the agents. So one task here, one agent is doing the database explore. It's looking at the details of the database. Another agent does the query generation. So when I ask the question, it figures out which agent it's going to use for the task, and it then generates what I requested for me dynamically. And you can see the last few steps. Oh, here's the third one. Answer questions. So I asked it, why in the world was wholesale the highest code? And it explained to me because of the natural sorting of the string class, it's going to give me the highest alphabetical code first. And then we switch back to query generation. So I like this for its conversational area. Like I said, I'm a new user to visual. I want it to do things on my behalf, but I'm still kind of figuring it out. Let's start a new conversation. Let's just call it no changes. Not going to save changes. Oh my gosh, wouldn't be a live demo if I didn't get this. All right, here's a new conversation. Okay, so I want to ask it. What I want to ask it. So earlier I talked about viewpoints. Viewpoints are our way of taking the entirety of the database and scaling it down to something more manageable. So I'd like to look at that area of the database. So I'll ask it, how many viewpoints in the visual data dictionary? So it's going to go out and look at that added value. The viewpoints were added by me, so it doesn't require an IT person to put them in. And basically what I did was looked at the It looks like it has a little problem with my request, so I'm going to ask it to fix it for me, see if it can get around. It's querying the database to see what viewpoints were there. Yep, not liking that. Let me ask the question a different way. How many viewpoints are in the data dictionary? Part of the excitement of working with the AI is sometimes you see things. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. So it was actually in the syntax of my question that changed the output. So I wanted to show these. I added these in. They came from the visual schematic documentation. These are the audit areas. So I added them in just simply through our dictionary management interface. And so as I select a viewpoint to work, it will narrow the schema down to these areas. So if I want to work in purchase orders, or if I want to work in the vendor area or the warehouse area, the Cyberquery AI, the assistant, will take advantage of viewpoints when they exist because it actually makes the job easier and helps to kind of educate the user as it's running, which is nice because I can now start down the path. So let's ask it. If I wanted an AR report, which viewpoint should I use? So there we go. It's come up with some suggestions. The receivable viewpoint would probably have everything I need. So let's get going. Show receivables by customer. I got to learn to stop talking before I press that microphone. I keep getting my last word. But it's funny, I'm a decent typist, but not a great one. So I like the microphone because it's faster and I have fewer errors. Okay, so there you go. It generated a query for me. It's working off the receivable table, and it's going to give paint amount and total amount by customer name. So when I run it, there you go. Kind of what I asked for, right? Please rank by the highest receivable balance. What I'm asking it to do now is take that report and rank it for me. Rather, right now it's showing the customers by name alphabetically. I'll re-rank by the totals. It's generated the query, made a couple changes to it. Now I should be finishing up shortly. What's neat about this process is that it's teaching me the language as I go. So if I am a brand new user, I'm not as intimidated by the language statements when I get into Cyberquery because through my interactions with the AI, I will have seen these commands. Also, there's this nice feature here called plus minus. What that's going to do for me is highlight the things that have changed since the last pass. So the report you're seeing on the screen is the report I asked for a minute ago. And then when I asked it to re-rank, it made changes to that query and presented them in its complete form. But if I use the plus minus key, I can see in green what was added, and I can see in red or pinkish what was removed. And what it did on our behalf, if you take a look at this, the original query just asked for these two numeric fields grouped by customer name. When I asked for the total balance, it added a defined variable at the top here, which is going to add those fields together. Actually, no, subtract total amount minus paid amount to get a new variable called balance, and it added that into the body and took out the database fields. So it's still the same data, but it's simplifying the query and putting in a variable for me. And so now what I end up with is what I asked for. I asked for ranking by totals. So this is one of the things you see in some databases is enormous precision in numeric fields. All right. Sometimes it's useful. Sometimes it's a bit distracting, especially when we're talking about dollars. So I might say to it, set the decimal places to 2, please. And instead of changing my database, all it's going to do is fix the query so that I'm only displaying two decimal places. There's a management console that comes with the AI assistant that allows you to input information to the AI to train it of sorts on how you use visual. One of the first things that our customers have chosen to do is to educate the AI on levels of precision for either different fields or different types of reporting. So that even though it might be stored with 6 or 7 significant digits after the decimal place, you can train the AI to just deliver your numeric values in 2. And it'll do this for you automatically. So we probably need to train it. Let's see the new report here. When I run it, there you go. It's reduced it down to something more manageable, 2 decimal places, right? Let's add in a customer name. Show receivables by customer name. Oh, wait a minute. I already had the customer name in there, didn't I? Oh, see, this is the problem with writing notes. And I got Shield instead of show. It'd be interesting to see what we get now. Give it a sec. Let's see what we got here. Looks like it's pretty much the same report. Nothing's really changed because it figured out that I'm there. Let's change this to a chart. Please convert this to a bar chart. So it's going to now take the query, which was one format, and switch it to what we call the plot command, which is going to generate the chart. It explains all this to me here, which is great. Again, educating me on how the product works so that I can become a better user of Cyberquery. One of the things I'll show you here is you're fully active in a Cyberquery environment here. If I want to see the chart control off to the side, I can choose to change the presentation of the chart into different ways of formatting. Maybe I'll look at it as a Pareto chart, which effectively is the 80-20 rule, showing us what we already kind of knew. Able manufacturing is dominating our receivables. We saw that in the previous chart, or the previous report when we listed them by sizing. Coming up on my deadline time-wise, but the last thing I wanted to show you here, let's toggle back to the assistant and start a new conversation, new query. No, boy, I'm just having a day today, aren't I? Exit. Let me log back in and show the assistant again and finish up with the last piece. Before I was showing you an AR aging report. So imagine I were to ask, I need an AR aging report. Actually, my typing was pretty good on that one. So what this is going to illustrate is what I mentioned in the presentation, starting points. So any existing queries that you've developed and tested and found to be valid contributions to your environment, to your company, you save them for the AI as starting points. And what that means is I have the option here to either start a new query, which I didn't mean to do. I wanted to do a starting point. There we go. And so when I click the starting point, it's going to show me existing queries that I have out there, which are available for use as a starting point. And as I mentioned earlier, the value of this is, we saw this one when I brought it up in the browser, which was basically this has the drill downs and everything to do with the AR aging. But the starting point allows me to take something that's already working and just make small changes to it. Sometimes you want to start from a brand new idea and build it from scratch with the AI, and that you can do that as well. But what we find with a lot of our customers is they have a standardization to not only the way they create reports, but also how they present them. And so what the starting point option allows you to do is to retain the company standard as your query is getting created, and then leave all the formatting in place. For instance, if you have your company logo at the top, or you like to use certain color schemes for data, sometimes you can validate values in the data and change them different colors to highlight positive, negative numbers, or outside of a range of numbers that you would want to be targeting. And you use colors to offset that. All that formatting travels with the starting point query. So if I use a starting point, I retain all of that company standardization in the presentation, and I can just then make small changes and get to a report that follows the company standard. So I'm at 50 minutes past the hour, which is about where I need to stop so we can leave 10 minutes for questions. I'll let Con facilitate questions for me, and let's see what we got.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff. We have 3 questions. First from Gabriel, how does CQAI handle data security for external sources like Salesforce or CPQ or any other third-party product?
Great question. What we do with those third parties is access the database depending on what we're allowed to do. So if you have that app, so maybe CPQ, you have it on-prem. If it's in your control and you have access, or you actually have the application implemented on premise, then we can query it just as we query Visual. We'll create a data dictionary. We'll add value into that data dictionary. We'll train the AI on your data dictionary. We will not train the AI on your data. As we mentioned before, it learns the schematic model, but doesn't learn the data. The data stays secured. If your product is in the cloud, which I believe CPQ can be, as well as Salesforce, we actually run here in our office, we run Salesforce for our sales management. We have to use their APIs to get to the data. So what we at Cyberscience do, and many of our customers do with Cyberquery, is each night at the end of your business day, we access the Salesforce data using their API with Cyberquery, and we extract that day's transactions. And then we load that day's transactions into a local database that we control on-prem with all the transactional activity. And then we run a whole slew of automated Cyberquery reports against that local repository. That repository is our own format. We call it query databases. It's very fast, very efficient, and it's also very secure, because once again, we're only doing a read into the Salesforce data, populating a database locally on-prem, and then since the users are not allowed to go in and query Salesforce directly, we've secured that down. We have all the reports already created and set up to automatically email each of the salespeople every morning with status reports.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is coming from Ben. What does the AI send to the database, SQL or MDX or other?
So with Visual, it sends SQL. I was going to see if I can find you an example here. I'll quickly show it. This was my query that created the payables chart. If I say insert SQL, this is what was sent to the Visual database server. So if you know SQL, you can work with this. Cyberquery likes to take the tightest coupling it can have with a database. So typically SQL gives us that if it's a SQL Server database. Some other databases like DB2 or I'm trying to think of another one that they actually have their own client. DB2 has its own access client that we use. So we write to that specification. But more and more these days, if it's an industry standard database and it's a SQL-based database, you're going to use SQL.
Okay. The other question is from Gabriel again. What feature allows users to set persistent rules, such as decimal places, for the AI assistant to follow?
We have, let me see if I can show you. We have a management console for the AI where those rules are set. Here's an example. Let me bring the PowerPoint back up. Just 1 second. There you go. We call it the AI advice section. So this is an example of one of our customers who's in the beta program right now. These are the advice statements that they used. You can see they add them in a line at a time, and it's utilized to train the AI to follow these guidelines when working with their database. When you think about this, I mean, we do all the work to train the AI. We, Cyberscience, do all the work to train the AI on Cyberquery and to train the AI on what's in our data dictionary. But it only goes as deep as what's in the data dictionary. Some dictionaries are just a simple copy of the schema. Other data dictionaries are very robust because a lot of text has been added in to describe each table, to describe each column in each table. The more data that's fed into that dictionary, either by the database vendor or by us building a dictionary, the better the AI is trained to work with the fields. Because as you saw earlier in my demonstration, sometimes you ask for the wrong thing. So the AI is going to give me what I asked for, which turns out was the wrong things. I've often had it correct my question and say, well, that doesn't exist in the database, but you probably want this instead. And I'm amazed at how many times it's right. And typically that's done because somebody has put in a text description of what that field is so that it helps the AI understand that what I asked for is really that field.
All right. Uh, we had one more question, but I can't see it now. But we have a new question
Okay.
from Daniel. You mentioned storing the cloud API copied data local. Is
Yeah.
that local in Cyberquery servers or local in the company's own servers next to their visual database?
Either or, whatever you want. So we typically will put the data in our own database because it's included with our product. It doesn't cost you anything more, right? But if you want from our API, if you want the data in a form that can be then loaded into one of your databases, then you just tell us that. So we could generate an extract from the API in XML and CSV, whatever you would want, and then you could take it and load it into a different database that you have on-prem. It's your decision. Like I say, we use ours because it's built into the product and it doesn't have any additional cost.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more questions? We still have 4 minutes, and I think we can still wait 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, we have one more question from
Okay.
Gabriel again. How long does it take to get familiar with the system? I mean, an average from current users.
So let's talk through the different levels of that. When we implement Cyberquery, we have a training class, and that training class, you decide who attends, and the training class will teach people how to maintain the data dictionary for any added value you want to put in it. So we will provide you a visual data dictionary, but you may want to enhance it. You may want to add in other data sources. And so we teach you how to do that and how to administer the environment being things like, setting up the user accounts, deciding who can see what in the system and so forth. That's the first day. The second and third day are training class on how to use Cyberquery. We always recommend that you put as many people in there as those who want to do it. So it certainly is typically like IT people and so forth, but we encourage you to have people in other roles who are like data consumers, people who are naturally curious, who want to get to data. Put them in the class, see how they like it. They may become your best users. You don't know. So we usually hold, I think it's up to 10 in the Cyberquery class for days 2 and 3. And then the last day is what we call our workshop, where our expert who's been doing the training will work with your team to build some queries together so they can see how it's done, and we leave the overall training event with workable reports in your arsenal, so to speak. So you're ready to roll. So, like I said, typically most companies are putting some people with technical skills in the training, but I believe that there are people in other job roles who might be very, very heavy users if given the ability to learn the product and access the data.
Okay, and the other question is from Richard. What is the cost per user?
So we don't sell it for an individual user cost. We sell it in a configuration which includes a bunch of things. So when we put together the pricing, it involves the server side components like the Cyberquery engine itself and the data dictionary and all that. And that's typically a quantity of one. And then we include user licenses based on their level of access. So one level of user is what we call a developer. That's the person who's going to go in and write queries like I was doing earlier. And then the other level of users would be the consumers, the ones that just want the ability to run them. Typically that user, let me think now. I would say to get an idea of overall cost, the basic monthly cost for a five developer user environment for Cyberquery is around $1,400 to $1,500 a month. As you add more users, the cost can go up. Depends on the type of users that you add. I would say typically in a smaller organization that basic license covers their need. I'll just say it that way. But if you have other locations who want to have access, or you merge with other companies and the user count grows, then you can just incrementally add to your license count.
Okay, perfect. We are at the top of the hour, but I don't want to leave any unanswered question. If we have one more question from Mario, how long is the training class?
So the training class is 4.5 days. The other half of the day is the setup and implementation, which doesn't typically have a bunch of people attending. It's usually our person working with an admin on your side. So imagine the first 4 hours of training is one-on-one with the admin to set up the Cyberquery environment. Then the remaining 4.5 days or 36 hours is focused on training. The first 8 hours of training is for admin users, people who are going to control user accounts and that kind of thing. And then the remaining 28 hours is going to be user training. I hope that answers the question. We'll be happy to, if you want to know more details, just reach out to Sherry and we can like lay it out for you in a visual way.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff. I think we don't have any more questions. So we're gonna close the session, but before we close, thank you so much for your time, first of all. And next month in September 16, Stephen Peel, our visual ERP consultant, will deliver a presentation about shop floor scheduling. Um, so you can feel free to register. You can visit our website and register. And if you have any questions about Cyberquery AI or your visual ERP, please don't hesitate to reach out to Sherry Behzadi, our customer success manager, so she can answer any of your questions or she can guide you to the right person. All right. Thank you so much for everyone, and thank you so much, Jeff, for the. It was a great presentation. I think we will receive great feedbacks. Really appreciate it, and have a great day.
Thank you.